Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Before the Kickoff podcast. Oh, man, this is just such an emotional day for us here Before the Kickoff because the Super Bowl ended a couple days ago, which is good and bad. It is good news, it is bad news. The good news is it was the Super Bowl. It was a great game. The bad news is that football's over, and we're not going to see it again for a while. Chase, good news, bad news. What are your thoughts on all that?
You know, it's sad, but if you're a college football fan, we do have spring training games, I guess. You know, there's nothing real. It's just sad when the NFL season's over. It's just, like, depressing. I mean, yeah, we got off-season, all that stuff, but when the Super Bowl ends, it's a bittersweet moment. You're happy because a certain team that you wanted to win, or you're sad because your team lost, but also it's just because, like, it's over and it's done, and it's just sad. You know, I really don't like when football season ends.
Yeah, definitely. But we're going to cheer up a little bit. We're going to go into the game. We're going to analyze, whatever the hell you want to call it. We're going to go into the Super Bowl. Baltimore Ravens beat the San Francisco 49ers with a score of 34-31. Joe Flacco was named the Super Bowl MVP after throwing 3 touchdowns. Was 22 for 33, had 287 yards. So the first thing, what were your thoughts on Joe Flacco's MVP performance?
I really thought it was a great MVP performance by Joe Flacco. What's the most interesting thing? I think most people are not talking about Joe Flacco's performance. Yeah, he had great deep balls, but look at that pocket presence. There were like 4 times in that game he ran away from the Alden Smith that is supposed to be the crazy sack monster of the 49ers defense. I mean, he looked amazing in the pocket. It was like watching Super Bowl 42 4 times with Eli Manning when he escaped the Patriots defense. That's what it felt like. It was just amazing, his pocket presence. And, you know, normally when you see Joe Flacco play quarterback, he throws balls away to the outside a little bit too much. This time he tried to make sure I'm throwing it to my wide receivers, and that's what he did. He looked awesome in this game. Just over the back throws that he had, he just looked really good. And Joe Flacco, he reminds me a lot of San Diego quarterback Dan Fouts back in the day. He really is. And I feel now the Ravens, I feel they're finally going to make that shift from being a team that's known for their great defense to becoming a great offensive team in the NFL.
Well, you see, Joe Flacco was great in that game. He was great. People may say that Jacoby Jones deserved to be MVP. You know, I can understand the debate where you're coming from, but the fact of the matter is Joe Flacco was great. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about his pocket presence. Okay, this guy was completely unfazed by pressure, but at the same time, he was able to sense pressure, and he was able to get away from the pressure very effectively. It was the highlight of the night, really. I mean, we all know your touchdowns and everything, but really what was amazing to me was when he rolled out of the pocket, kept his eyes downfield, and still delivered a ball to Anquan Bolden. That was just great football.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That is how you win a Super Bowl. All right, that was one of the most important drives in the game right there. That's how you win a Super Bowl. That's where you're like, wow, Joe Flacco is legit, ladies and gentlemen. What a great game this man had. And what a great game the Ravens had altogether. Now that we all know about the second half, Jacoby Jones had a 108-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and then it happened. The power outage happened. What were your thoughts on the power outage?
I thought it was hilarious. I just didn't know what was going on. Like, it was just a crucial third down for the 49ers at that point because they were down 28-6. And then all of a sudden, you know, half the Superdome goes out, and I'm like, what is going on here? And you can't even hear Jim Nantz or Phil Simms because I was just like, what's going on? And then we go to commercial, and we find out we're getting another halftime. We're getting another halftime. Why didn't they just bring Beyonce back out there for us to enjoy at least? I mean, we were seeing like Navarro Bowman yawning on the sideline, Joe Flacco laying there doing what stretch was he doing? It was like the weirdest stretch I've seen. Like, I've done stretches in the past, but Joe Flacco was doing something like totally weird. I mean, it was just kind of weird just seeing these guys just lay down and look like bums. It was just like, this is supposed to be the Super Bowl, and these guys just look like they're just having a nice day at the picnic or something.
Yeah, it was pretty hilarious when that power went out. It was also funny when Jim Nantz, every time he came back, every time they went to commercial, they came back, Jim Nantz was like, yeah, we've been told it's going to be 15 more minutes. 10 minutes later, yeah, so it's going to be 15 more minutes. Like, okay, you guys have no idea. You guys really have no idea, do you? But, you know, the whole power outage thing, it really did allow the 49ers to get the momentum back because, think about it, they just scored, the Ravens. A kickoff return for a touchdown. That's demoralizing. That is demoralizing. That hurts your soul. I don't care who you are, human nature, that hurts your soul. But then after that, the 49ers get a 30-minute timeout for Jim Harbaugh to get their heads back on straight. And that does give them an advantage, ladies and gentlemen. Because you have 30 minutes after that Jacoby Jones kickoff return for a touchdown to say, you know what? We're still okay. And then you have 30 minutes to get back in that mindset that you can still win the game. So yes, the power outage did help the San Francisco 49ers, but that's still no excuse to why the 49ers came back from the Ravens side of view. They should not have let the 49ers come back. They did. They ended up winning the game. It was just a little more stressful than it needed to be. Chase, just overall thoughts on the game?
I thought this game was very entertaining. I felt that, you know, even when the Ravens were blowing out the 49ers, I wasn't bored. Because Colin Kaepernick, who's still a quarterback in this league, understand, guys, he was young playing this game, was entertaining. He was throwing the ball very, very well. He also did a good job, to me personally, just running the football. He's an entertaining guy. Like, I just felt entertained throughout the whole game. I felt that after the power outage, that's when the game started to become an instant classic. And the fourth quarter was just amazing to me. And, of course, we're going to discuss something big in the fourth quarter later on in the podcast.
Yeah, and that's going to be the pass interference. Going to call. We'll get into that later in the podcast. Another thing that I enjoyed watching was Chris Culliver, the San Francisco 49er cornerback, that was really, and excuse my language, talking all kinds of bullshit during Super Bowl week, opening his stupid-ass mouth, talking about gays and all that, you know, mess. Okay, I'm sorry. But this man, I loved to see him struggle during that game. He didn't even want to apologize from what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that they forced him to apologize or they threatened to not let him play in the game, and he played horribly in the game. He allowed the Jacoby Jones touchdown. He got a pass interference call. He played dreadfully. He is a huge part of the reason that the 49ers gave up all those yards, and it was, to me, just saying, you know what, yo, shut up. And that was one of the greatest parts to me. Just a little gripe that I have with him, and he can now shut the fuck up. Chase, it's time for your College Minute of the Week.
All right, guys. NFL draft season starting. Combines are coming up soon. And one guy that most teams should be looking at is nose tackle Starlato Smith out of Utah. Starlato Smith is a beast of a nose tackle. Can play the one technique very well. I don't think he would fit well in a 4-3 system. In all perfect honesty, he has played in the 4-3 system. But I really feel that a 3-4 team should draft this guy. This guy right here, he's a definite top 5 pick. Starlato Smith is a beast and a monster. He can pass rush like no other defensive line I've seen in a while. The only problem with Starlato Smith is, with all the great outside rushers that are in this draft, his draft stock might fall. And teams like the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints, heck, maybe even the Carolina Panthers, can somehow grab this man. Starlato Smith is a great talent. Definitely check him out. Beast of a defensive lineman and the overall best defensive tackle in this NFL draft. Next week, I'll be talking about defensive end DeMontre Moore.
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the,
And that's right now. It's time for our pulled over segment. Chase, you're the perpetrator. Who are you this week?
Well, I'm Jim Harbaugh.
And you see, I'm the cop. I'm the police officer, and you were making a fool of yourself during the game there, Jim. What was going on? You were going a little crazy there on the sidelines. Even though that's not really breaking news, you do that often. But what was going on?
I get really emotional in games like this one, okay? And it was absurd to me that those refs called my men offsides when we clearly stopped the Baltimore Ravens. It was ridiculous to me that we got roughing. Oh, no, wait, we got that penalty. See, I'm just so freaked out about this game that I can't even think straight right now, okay? And the fact to me, we got robbed. This should have been our game. Our game, officer.
Well, that's about that. Moving on. Yeah, I just don't. During the game, the first series, we're going all the way back to the first. The first series was god awful. First of all, your team comes onto the field, and you've had 2 weeks to prepare for this Super Bowl game, and the first play you run is an illegal formation. The first.
I can explain that, okay?
You came into the game knowing that you were going to run illegal formation. What the hell?
All right, so I don't expect you to understand a pistol like I do. But what I can make you understand was that it was all Randy Moss's fault. He lined up wrong. Otherwise, that was a brilliant play. You can't deny that. Randy Moss lined up wrong. And if Randy Moss didn't line up wrong, that play would have been a first down.
Yeah, well, I'm reviewing my notes here, Jim Harbaugh. You're actually not guilty. I'm going to let you off the hook this time. You're a great coach in the NFL. I'm going to let you off the hook. Because next year, come back. Don't act too much like a baboon, but you're free to go.
Yes. Suck it, Matt Schaub.
All right, well, thanks for sticking around, and now we're going to get on the pass interference holding, whatever the hell you want to call it, Jimmy Smith, Michael Crabtree, 4th and goal at about the 5-yard line. The 49ers needed to score here. The score was 34-29 at this point. They needed a touchdown to go ahead in this game, not to win this game. First of all, let me say that. Not to win the game. People say if the 49ers get that, they win the game. Calm down. They wouldn't have. For all we know, they would have won the game. For all we know, the Ravens could have went down the field, scored a field goal, game over. But let's just talk about this. So, Chase, to you, was it a pass interference or holding that needed to be called there?
First off, I don't even think it was near pass interference. Pass interference has to have a catchable ball. That ball was too far away for Michael Crabtree to even catch. Now, on the side of holding, for one sense, yes, I could say maybe there was holding on Jimmy Smith's side. But then I also look at it, Crabtree was also pushing and shoving. So which means it should have been a holding on both Michael Crabtree and Jimmy Smith, leading to the fact that penalties be offset, still Ravens ball. So pretty much no matter how you look at it, for me personally, it was a good no call because either way, it would have just been penalties offset. And what I want to know is this. Who led the 49ers down to that position? I'm pretty sure it was the legs of Frank Gore. Why in the blue hell on 3rd and goal on the 1 and 4th and goal on the 1 with no Haloti Ngata, because Haloti Ngata, he injured his knee in the 3rd quarter, I believe, and was out of the game. Why not hand it to Frank Gore to run in for the touchdown? It just makes no sense to me. Your line was doing a great job blocking. Frank Gore scored a touchdown in that same position. Why not do the same exact play? Ray Lewis is not fast enough to stop that, and Delaney Walker is a great impact blocker. I feel the play calling was very bad on that behalf. But other than that, yeah, it was a holding call, but I think it was a holding call on both men because both men were grabbing jerseys. It was nowhere near a pass interference. That ball was nowhere near catchable for Crabtree.
The play calling was horrid. I really don't understand it. I gotta reset the recording. Okay. So, I really don't understand the play calling right there. Okay, let me just go down into this, and I really don't understand. Okay, so what has been working for you all game long? The pistol has been working for you all game long, especially during the second half. When they started getting the little threat of Colin Kaepernick running, then that's when the Ravens were starting to have problems. That, during the second half, remember that Colin Kaepernick touchdown run? Yeah, the Ravens were really scared at that point. So, maybe you want to come on that formation. Maybe you want to give it to Colin Kaepernick. Maybe you want to trick the Ravens a little bit. Not just have Colin Kaepernick drop back, have 5 wide receivers, and say, throw to somebody. That didn't work. He didn't complete a pass. They did that 5 times in the entire game they did it. It didn't work. It just didn't work. The 49ers are not good when it comes to throwing at the goal line. If they would have ran it 3 times, then okay, that's fine. You don't need to throw the football. It's not a have to. The Ravens secondary is very underrated, and I don't know why. They have one of, if not the best safety back there. I don't care how old he is. He's the one that picked off Colin Kaepernick in the first half. A huge interception there. They also have Kerry Williams, Jimmy Smith, who we'll get into later. I don't even know why you try. But Jimmy Smith, yes, his hand was on the jersey and all that. But when you see Michael Crabtree's hand, it is pushing off of Jimmy Smith's helmet, showing me that it is mutual. Pushing, shoving, it is mutual there. No flag, a great no call. And somebody's trying to show me a picture of Jimmy Smith holding him. Pictures don't mean anything, okay? I need to see it live. A referee can't see a picture in their mind and then say, oh, that was it. No. You need to see it live. You need to see, oh, did this stop him from catching it? And to me, that did not stop him from catching it. So to me, that is not a pass interference or holding for that matter. That is just to me. So we're going to bring in NFC West writer Chris Valday on this issue. Chris, what is your analysis?
Well, honestly, you could look at this either way. I mean, you guys want to talk about pass interference. I think it was in the second quarter that Joe Flacco was throwing a bomb to, I believe it was Torrey Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. And I forget who on the 49ers was covering him. But I believe they should have called offensive pass interference. And I believe Phil Simms said, if anything, it was offensive pass interference. But there was no call at all right then and there. I found that a little interesting to say the least. But you guys talking about in the fourth quarter, obviously, that big play right there. It could go either way. I mean, we all know about the whole 5-yard bump thing, whatever. There was no way that Michael Crabtree, as good of an athlete as Michael Crabtree is, I don't think he was able to catch that. I don't think he would have been able to catch that. It was way too far away from him. But I can understand if you're a 49ers fan, and I could see the point of it. But at the same time, I just don't understand why they had to throw it with Kaepernick. Maybe if the 49ers had won on that play, they could have been like, oh, Kaepernick helped them win the game. He threw the final touchdown. He won the game for them. I just don't understand how they didn't help, as Chase said, about the whole, them diving in the end zone with Frank Gore. Frank Gore, one of the best running backs, to me, still one of the most underrated running backs in the National Football League. You don't give the ball to him. Right then and there. The Ravens defense, very good against the pass. And against the run, yeah, they're okay. But, I mean, I just don't understand why they would go for the pass in that situation. But it wasn't enough evidence for me. As much as you guys know me, I'm an NFC West guy. There wasn't that much evidence. But, you know, if you're a diehard 49ers fan, I could see where you're coming from there. But, you know, just in this game in general, it was just a little too late for the 49ers, because what they did in the first half, the defense, it just came out and bit them in the ass really at the end.
So let's also get the opinion of NFC East writer Brandon Hughes. Brandon Hughes, what'd you take out of this?
Well, I don't really want to talk about the whole, whether it was holding or pass interference or whatever, because it wasn't. I mean, he was holding, Crabtree was holding. Let's talk about more of, they had a timeout. They didn't call the timeout when they saw that there was going to be a blitz. So that forced Kaepernick to throw the ball early, and it was overthrown. So there's no way Crabtree would even caught the ball in the first place. He was close, but he wouldn't have been able to, based on the way the route was run. Kaepernick should have called a timeout, seeing an all-out blitz. He should have called the timeout. He didn't, and I believe that is the reason that play was not completed. Also, like you guys have been saying, they should have ran the ball. It worked. They got on 1st and goal. They ran it, and they got a couple yards. They do that 3 more times, that would have been in the end zone. I don't see why they just chose to throw it. And all 3 throws were to Crabtree. They just made it too predictable that they were going to go to Crabtree on that last play. And the two of the throws were forced. The 3rd and goal throw was a forced throw. There was no way Crabtree was even going to get to the end zone. He had 2 guys all over him, and he got destroyed the minute he put his hands on the ball. The first one, Kaepernick was scrambling. There was no way Crabtree was going to catch that one either. And then the 4th one, there was that holding, pushing, shoving going on. Balls were overthrown, and game was over. And so, either way, it wasn't smart by Kaepernick. He should have called a timeout and realized that there was a blitz coming. So, and the play calling was a little iffy too. So that's my take on it.
And another thing, the 3rd and goal. All right, go back, watch that play, ladies and gentlemen. What the hell's going through Colin Kaepernick's mind? He makes this decision way too quickly. Vontae Davis was rolling out. He could hit Vontae Davis for the touchdown, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, he decides to try to hit. I can't remember exactly who it was. Believe it was Delaney Walker. Don't hold me to that. But there is no way. There was no way. It was Delaney Walker was at the 3-yard line. There's no way he's going to get in the end zone. There's no way. So I don't know why you're trying to throw that. I really have no idea why. I also don't know why he wasn't able to manage the clock before, because, hell, for all we know, if the 49ers get that 3 and out, then they had 2 timeouts instead of 1. They could have had a good 30 seconds to have the ball, and you never know what could happen in 30 seconds. It's the NFL. So, end of the day, just don't only blame that call. The 49ers had their chances to win the game, and they didn't win the game. They had chances. Don't pinpoint this one call and say, oh, they should have, the referees got this wrong here. And also, let's think back to this. Think back to the NFC Championship, and I'm talking especially to you, San Francisco 49ers fans. What were the Atlanta Falcons fans saying? Oh, they should have called pass interference on Navarro Bowman. And to me, there was much more contact that on Navarro Bowman did to Roddy White in the NFC Championship. Because in the NFC Championship, Roddy White wasn't even touching Navarro Bowman. Navarro Bowman was the only person that had contact when the ball was thrown, and there was no flag there. And here it was mutual contact. So if you do not throw the flag during that Navarro Bowman Roddy White pass, then you should not throw the flag during this pass. Chase, any more comments on this?
I wanted to mention this earlier, but In football, you always want to try to create a legendary moment, and I feel the reason why the 49ers actually wanted to throw the football was to solidify Colin Kaepernick as their quarterback. And it's almost as a sense of pride. They didn't want to give it to Frank Gore, even though Frank Gore has been wonderful all year. They wanted to make sure, because if you look at Frank Gore's stats, there's no way you do not deny him the Super Bowl MVP with those stats. But since Kaepernick already had the interception on him, they felt maybe one more touchdown. You got 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Kaepernick, he would be a legend. That interception by Ed Reed, forgotten. Legend. He threw the game-winning touchdown. And that's what they were trying to prove there. It was almost like this year in the Alabama game with Notre Dame, when Notre Dame checked on trying to throw it to D. Milner. They're trying to throw it to D. Milner's side because they want to prove a point. That's what the 49ers are trying to do, is prove a point that they can throw a touchdown and that Colin Kaepernick is the guy. I felt that's why they were probably going for passing plays more than running plays, was trying to prove a point to, the world. But in all honesty, like we said before, dumb play calling, not smart decisions, and Colin Kaepernick burning that timeout in the third quarter, it bit them in the ass, and you have nothing more to blame 49er fans than your quarterback. Your quarterback was the one who called the timeout in the third quarter.
Yeah, and I this is the one thing I hate. Honestly, I'm not gonna look like I'm a coach or anything, but it always comes back to bite them in the ass, it seems, whenever those timeouts are called, like, in the third quarter. So, I really don't understand. Just take the 5 yards. I know you want the first down. It's in the moment, but it always ends up biting them in the ass later on when they do not have that timeout. That's what I find. So, I just maybe if I was the coach, maybe, somebody's going to rebuttal that in the comments. Tell me why. Educate me. I'm always open to education. But to me, just take the 5 yards. And hell, even at the goal line, taking the 5 yards, you're at the 5, you go back to the 10. Hell, maybe that gives Colin Kaepernick more room to work with. Use more of that arm that he has to really force that ball, sling it, and zip it into Randy Moss. And I don't know why they didn't, try to get him the ball. But it just wasn't. It was the 49ers that didn't execute. And one more thing on the pass interference. They let them play the entire game. The entire game, they were letting them play. There was only one pass interference call that entire game, and it was blatant by Chris Culliver, who we talked about earlier in the show. That idiot. They were letting them play. They were being physical all day, and the referees were letting them play. And if you know that they're going to let them play, it's not going to chase them the last play. And the refereeing, to me, the officiating, was very consistent, and I don't have a problem with it at the end of the day. Chase, any last thoughts on this?
Last thought about this, when Colin Kaepernick called the timeout, and that timeout was crucial, in the great words of Paul Allen, this isn't Detroit, man, it's the Super Bowl. And that's pretty much what you should say about that. And if you guys don't understand that, please watch that, because it's one of the most greatest highlights ever.
All right, everybody. Thank you for checking into the Before the Kickoff podcast. Make sure to check out the website, beforethekickoff.com. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/beforekickoff. Make sure to like us on Facebook, facebook.com/beforethekickoff. For all of us here Before the Kickoff, I'm James Christopher. That is my co-host, Chase Oliver. We will see you all next week, where we don't even know what we're going to talk about. Hopefully, we'll get into something. Hopefully something comes out. By the way, what is this Deer Antler Velvet Extract? Nobody cares about that. We're not going to talk about that junk. What were you trying to say? You said say something?
Maybe we should do some team bios, like Kansas City.
Oh, yeah, we could do some team bio. We could get into that. We'll figure out something. We have this entire offseason to do stuff. Tell your friends, tell your family, beforethekickoff.com. Deer and their velvet extract, all that bull crap. We'll find something to talk about next week. Before the Kickoff, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we're out. Peace.